Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Everyday Faith, day number 8. We have a scripture today from 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 2. It's one of my favorite verses, really, in the whole of the New Testament. And this is what Paul wrote to Timothy. He says, "You heard me teach things that have been confirmed by many reliable witnesses. Now teach these truths to other trustworthy people who will be able to pass them on to others." Most scholars believe that the Apostle Paul wrote his second letter to Timothy around 12 to 18 months before he was killed as a Roman prisoner. In fact, 2 Timothy would end up becoming the final recorded letter from Paul that we have in the Bible. And what was the main theme of this final letter? It was Paul's desire for Timothy to remain strong and carry on a legacy of faith. Paul urged Timothy to pass on what he learned from him to other people who would in turn pass them down to others. That's 4 generations. Paul to Timothy, Timothy to trustworthy people, and trustworthy people to others. When the older we get, the more we realize that all that matters are the things that last. Possessions, social media likes, matters of appearance, all will fade. But faith, hope, and love will be what lasts. And this is what legacy is made of. I love this verse. I love this devotional because this is everything that really is just summed up so well. I don't know if you guys know this, but before, for the better part of the first 2 years that we were starting, my wife and I were starting our church here in New York City, I worked as a consultant, focusing on leadership, marketing stuff, doing some other things like that. And one of the things that what I would always emphasize in the context of leadership was about creating a legacy of leadership. And I would build it off of actually this verse. And so I'll spare you the boring details of that, but I'll take the principles that I use from this verse. Is that this idea of 4 generations. With Paul to Timothy, they have a relationship together. So Timothy, he definitely cares about what Paul has to say. Now, when it goes from Timothy to someone else, to those trustworthy people, they may not know Paul, but they care about Paul because Timothy cares about Paul. If you and I were friends or in a conversation, you would care about who I care about because you care about me, and vice versa. I care about who you care about because I care about you. And so there's that kind of thing. But by the time it gets down to the 4th generation, they don't know Paul. They don't have any personal connection to Paul. They may not even have heard of Paul. What the 4th generation cares about is what actually matters? Does this really make a difference in my life? Does this actually change me? Is this faith going to lead to something greater, more significant? And the point that I would make is that that's really legacy at its finest, is that when it's being handed down 4 generations later or to a 4th generation, and they can take it and they can use it. And I think faith is the same way. We talk about building a legacy of faith. First and foremost, we need to build on Jesus, right? That's all that matters. That's the number one thing. That's the foundation, the cornerstone, that's the bedrock, that's all of it. But when we pass on our faith, it's important that what we do and what we pass on is something that someone else can take. Your son, your daughter, your cousin, your family member, your sister, your brother, that neighbor, that person you're mentoring or discipling or through your church or through that mom's group or whatever it is. That person that you're connected to, when it comes to faith, you want to make sure that whatever you're sharing with them is something that they can take and they can share with others. And that's where legacy, the cycle of legacy, starts to take place. And again, I'm young. I know that. I understand. I'm 33 years old, but I think about my legacy a lot. And I think about my intentions, I think about my actions, and I think about the people that I'm impacting, the people that I'm privileged to serve, you guys included. And, at the end of the day, what I want is for my legacy to actually matter and to genuinely make a difference. And so, that's important to me. I think that's part of what Jesus has called us to do and who Jesus has called us to be as Christians. And I think when we go with that mindset, our legacy not only just makes a difference in one person's life or in one generation's life, but in generations to come. So let's take that to heart today. Let's live with that in mind. Let's go out, let's make an impact, and let's be the people God has called us to be. I'll see you guys back here tomorrow.